over the stream that sounds like I'm repeating myself. It's coming from my crappy little Chromebook. Just making sure the audio is good. Alright, so 3, 2, 1.
God damn it!
Hey Wyatt. Hey Gus. Hey David. Hey Buttspot. Alright, so keep in mind this is also the first time I've actually watched this run back, so if I'm unable to tell the future, you can sue me. Hey Speedfrog, thanks. Thanks for your luck, dude. Alright, so if I remember correctly, and I should expect at this point, Flames was pretty good. So this stage, for those who aren't familiar with the category, is pretty wacky, and I'm pretty notorious for the amount of time I spend in it. The little number at the top of my splits, the one that says 19268, that is the number of attempts I have done in this category, and over 10,000 of them were in Flames, so that'll just give you some perspective. But that does mean my Plains time overall ended up being very good. I believe this might have been either a very low 149 or a high 148. So this right here is called the Plane Zip. Basically, what you do is you get in two different string transitions at the same time, and it allows you to get over to the one that's diagonal to the one that you just got through. It's a pretty neat trick. This is Black Knight. Actually, recently, I've actually been able to not be completely destroyed by him. So that's the fastest kill you can get without burst glitch. Okay, so yeah, low 149. So 149 is pretty good. Basically, Black Knight is super annoying because he's one of the only bosses where he doesn't have active. He has iframes, which means that when you hit him, he can go invincible for like half a second. So basically, you have to just keep him in the corner and make sure he doesn't escape. Because if he escapes, he runs slightly faster than you, meaning that if he gets away, it'll waste a lot of time. But I didn't let that happen, so that's good. This is the village. The village is a very short stage. Basically, it's kind of just like a cutscene you can move in, because it's only, like, there's 20 seconds of movement, I think. During the entire run, I forgot to mention, the main mechanic that's used is burst glitch. Or not burst glitch, just bursting, where you hold up a charge, and then you release it, and you can fly pretty nice distances. And if you hold the burst button right as you let go of it, you can charge him without having to throw bombs every time you want to charge a burst. Plague Knight also has an arsenal of bombs, which you'll notice I'll be using. Also something to mention, in Village, for some reason the cogs there are random, and it varies by like a second, so that's kind of dumb. This is Pridemoor. I believe Pridemoor went pretty well. It's a pretty straightforward stage, probably one of the most straightforward in the run. The most RNG you'll get is the rats, and maybe King's Jump. But that can all be managed pretty easily. Mostly it's just about getting the little time saves, which I'm all for. And then making sure your movement's good. Movement is a big part of this run. For the most part... Oh, wow. I had a bit of an epic save there. Normally you're supposed to clip the edge of the floor so you can get your double jump back. If you didn't notice, Plague Knight can double jump as well, extending his movement. So coming up here will be the lava pot room / book room, and it can be pretty tricky, especially with the trick I do. Basically, I do a trick that allows me to not have to damage boost off that rat, and just allows me to use a little bit of the iframes I get off of bursting to get just enough through the lava that comes from the pot in order to not have to evade it through other means. So here's King Knight. You do this little manipulation here that allows you to keep him against the wall for the first part. And the next part is just kind of throwing bombs at him. I actually got a really good fight there because most of the time on the last 3 set of bombs he hits you, so you can just turn around and hit him back. But actually he went right through me for the first set of bombs, and allowed me to just turn around and get him right back. So that was a pretty good king. Actually, on these splits, my king was super good. So despite the fact that I lost 0.7, I still had a pretty solid king. So next up is the Lich Yard, and the Lich Yard is probably one of the most annoying stages in the game for several reasons. I got bad Duck Knight RNG. So there he can either move twice or 3 times, and he moved 3 times there, and it basically lost like half a second. But it's not a big deal, obviously. It's just I tend to obsess over the little things. So that first frog there in the community is nicknamed Jeremiah. He can be pretty mean sometimes. I'd say about 30% of the time he'll give you a completely awful pattern where you have to either react quickly enough to be able to turn around and damage boost off him, or have to maneuver under him. But he gave me a good pattern there, so that's good. Here's another trick coming up where basically I just damage boost off the frog intentionally. There's a way you can do it without the damage boost, but it's a lot tighter. Actually, wow, okay, so I messed up a good bit there. Probably lost 0.8. I accidentally hit the frog, but he ended up giving me just the right amount, just the right pattern I needed. And so this is probably one of the most annoying rooms in the game. This is the frog room, where there are 2 rooms. If you can't tell, frogs are extremely random. They'll do whatever they want. Thankfully, that was a pretty good pattern and made up for the mistake I made earlier. Coming up to the last dark room. Basically, it's not super complicated. If you know where the platforms are, then it's pretty simple. Now, coming up is Specter, and Specter is quite something. So, there are 2 different kills that you can do on him. The one I do is the one that has no RNG, where on the second teleport he does, he can either go in the left corner or the right corner, and it varies by a few seconds. But I do a pretty darn difficult one, where I do this one, I do like a setup that's kind of based off the tool-assisted speedrun version of this, and I actually got a perfect fight, which is super sick. So basically you can manipulate him so that he doesn't actually ever finish his second teleport, and you don't have to rely on that. So that was pretty good. 707 is really good. I believe actually the run before this I got a 705, or no, I got a 704, which is the fastest Specter pace like ever. And I was about to get sub 10 Explodatorium, and I got the best Shovel Knight spawn, and I choked so hard, dude. I even got Ichor skip. Oh, dude, it hurt. Well, actually, no, I didn't get Ichor skip. I was about to, but I fiddled on the last few bombs. And, I'll explain what Ichor skip. This Explodatorium is the next stage, and it's pretty technical. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. A second. Alright, so that time we got good Duck Knight RNG. So Explodatorium, during the entire time, there's this fire cycle. So basically, a thing of fire will pop up and down, up and down. Kind of like the ones you're seeing there, but they don't have to be set off by you. So, pretty much the first part of this stage means I can't make any mistakes. So I have a pretty set pattern that I do for this room. And for these next few rooms. There are a couple backups I can do, but it gets pretty tricky when you have to go for backups. So, during this entire stage, I'll be taking some damage boosts. Oh, beefed a little bit there. So, looks like it's time for backup. Time to get some extra speed so I can make the fastest cycle. You'll notice I'll be doing some damage boosts throughout the run, throughout this stage. That's because... well, actually, first, here's the Alchemeister. The Alchemeister is, I mean, it's kind of a short mini-boss. I believe I needed 4. Okay, so I have 4 hits left, which is, I think, the best you can do. So that ended up allowing me to make up just a little bit of time I needed to make the fastest cycle. It turns out it's actually not faster to damage boost off the fire, even if it's in the way, because it actually sets up the next room quite nicely. So there I actually made the fastest cycle, which is super nice, despite making that mistake, and then wow, okay. Ooh, a lot of beef. But it still ended up making it, so that's super nice. So the reason I'm taking this damage, also, I ended up getting a good enough route so that not only is it the fastest route with the damage, but it also ends up setting up nicely for Shovel Knight. So Shovel Knight is the worst. Basically, so you'll notice when he disappears, that spawn point is random. I got a really good spawn point, so that's super nice. But basically, you want to keep him in the corner. Shovel Knight also doesn't have any, also has iframes. So, and I got I-Course here. Dude, that was a really good fight. Alright, sick. That is a really good fight. Basically, the most annoying thing that could happen, well, there are two annoying things that can happen. One, he can drink his I-Core, which means he heals up to full health when you're like halfway through the fight. It loses like 5 seconds. It's so dumb. But that didn't happen, thankfully. He can also throw anchors at any point in the run, which will lose you just about as much time, depending on what he wants to do after he's found his newfound freedom. So fortunately, neither of those things happened, and I got a 10 flat, which is extremely good. Like, super good. Might have been sub 10 if I didn't beef a couple of things in. Well, maybe not, because my goal is 253, and that was a 707. So, whatever. So next up is Lost City. Lost City is also a pretty straightforward city, but there's some things that can really mess you up. So these slimes here, there's some slimes that are random that can mess your day up, but it doesn't happen too much. There's some pretty hard technical stuff here. So first, this is the beetle skip. There's this big beetle you're supposed to ride, but if you time your lava cycles well, there's little lava drips that are coming down from the ceiling, you can make it past without taking a hit. But that's the first hit you have to take since you just don't want to fight that guy. Oh, whoops. Made a small mistake there. That room's kind of tricky though. Up next, coming soon is probably the biggest place for RNG in this stage. Just a bunch of slimes. Although they're pretty close together, and the dirt is always in the way, so it's actually not that bad most of the time. Like, this room barely ruins runs. So that's not a horrible pace, just could be a lot better. So this also is not a great room. Kind of like a little sloppy overall, but nothing disastrous. This room can be pretty tricky, just gotta make sure you land on the platforms. Next coming up is Beetle 2. Beetle 2 is the second beetle. It's a little bit trickier. There's a pretty precise trick where you want to get these, we call them Steve. You want to throw the bombs so you can hover in the air long enough for them to hit you so you can get through the fire cycles and the other Steve. You can also die pretty easily there. Coming up is Mole. Mole is probably the easiest fight in the game, and in that I kind of make him a lot harder than he needs to be. So this is a strat that I think I'm the only one who does, but it's actually faster if you get good RNG, which I did on that last dive. So basically, you just want to get those 2 hits on each time, and I got an extra hit on there thanks to a good dive in the way I was playing. So that was a pretty good Mole fight. It made up for the sloppy stage. Upcoming next up is Treasure, which probably has some of the most RNG in the game. I'll explain that once we get to the parts where there are RNG. So Treasure takes place in the Iron Whale, and I think this is the only level that's like there's some part in Tower 2 that's underwater, but this is like the fullest underwater level here. So first coming up, there's a pretty difficult trick that doesn't save that much time, but it's super nice to get. And I didn't get it. Basically, you want to hit the shell so that it actually breaks all the blocks, but it's pretty precise. I don't actually know how exactly it works. I just kind of mash in that section and hope it does. It works like, I'd say, 1/3 of the time. It's not great, but thankfully it only doesn't save much time. Coming up, we got some pretty technical stuff. This room, you just want to maneuver around the enemies. Got hit there, which is fine because I damage boosted. This eel section is pretty tough because you have to, you know, maneuver around them just the right way. Oh, and I burst early. That's a shame. That was just a bit of dumb time loss. I actually got a double eel hit there. I'm actually not sure how that works. It's kind of dumb how that works. How you can kill 2 eels with 1 bomb. So up next is the pretty big source of RNG. This is officially it's called the Teethalon, but here in the community we call it the 420 fish, because when you get to the end of this auto-scroller, he opens up his chest, and sometimes he likes to get pretty high. And that's not good. We want him to stay off the high. We want him to get off the high drugs. Yes. So basically I'm setting up here, so right when his chest opens, I'm throwing bombs at him. And I believe he actually gave me a pretty good pattern. He stayed pretty low, so that was nice. Ooh, fish got in the way, but it was fine. This room right here is actually pretty nasty, but I got through just fine. Next few sections there's some stuff, but after 420 fish, relatively speaking, in the stage, this guy, like, once in a blue moon, he'll throw this anchor when you're at the bottom of that screen, and it'll kill you every time. It's the worst when it happens, but it doesn't happen very often, thankfully. So that's pretty tricky. I actually don't know how that worked. It kind of blew up one block and then the other, but thankfully I still got it so I could get back in there. Actually, this entire time I've been strategically collecting money so I can have the exact amount of money I want when I get out of the Black Knight 2 fight after Propeller. Because normally people get it after Polar, but with a little bit of money maneuvering, I can actually get some upgrades that I'll want afterwards. So, alright, so Treasure kind of gave me a bad pattern, but I also kind of played poorly. Actually, this is a really jank fight. Kind of stupid how that happened. But the stage was good enough so it made up, and on these splits, this isn't actually my PB splits. I just play for these splits because I like them better. But I still saved like an okay amount of time. I said 2 seconds out of 8, which isn't great. That's pretty below average, but thankfully the mole pace was good enough to make up for that, so 1547 is pretty nice. It used to be the God run for me, but that's just something I kind of had to expect in order to get this time. So right now, at this point is when, in comparison to Flad, my splits start to go downhill. And that's something like that wasn't like a thing that like I didn't expect, because this is truly the point where Flad's run shines. So basically, up next is Propeller. And Propeller, Flying Machine is a stage. It's been nicknamed Crying Machine, Buying Machine, Dying Machine, all aptly named. And worst of all, more global cycles. So there's actually a fan that's blowing on and off near the end of the stage that starts at the beginning of the stage and blows on and off and on and off while you're playing the stage. And I'm trying to get there while making pretty much zero mistakes. I don't know how big my window is. Maybe compared to fastest, compared to not, maybe a 2 or 3 second window. Basically, you just want to maneuver around. So up next, you'll see the first enemy called the Jawa. The Jawas are pretty notorious, but now in my level of play, I can get around them pretty easily. So this is a trick where you just damage boost off them. It's easy peasy. Right up in this next room is the Dinghy Dropper. It's a big old airship, or a small old airship, really. And with the proper setup, you can get it pretty easily. You can beef it for sure, but it's not too complicated. So up next, I'll be buying the first and only item we'll be getting in this run. You'll actually get 2 items in the most optimal route, but it's a lot more complicated for 2 items. So basically, I just bought the Staff of Striking, and basically that allows you to slap enemies super fast. It's a pretty helpful time save. It makes bosses a lot easier and it saves a bunch of time. Big Boom is the most optimal route, where there's this big explosive. This is the second room of Jawas. This triple Jawa was probably one of the most notorious rooms of the game. Thankfully, they gave me pretty good patterns, so I didn't die. But the most optimal route is Big Boom. And basically, you get it in Pridemoor, so you get it in King Stage. And it costs a bit of money, so you have to actually go to Lich Yard first in order to get enough money to pay for Big Boom. Big Boom is this big explosive that you can throw and it'll blow up things. It doesn't kill your momentum. In fact, it'll increase your downward momentum, which is where most of the time save comes from. It costs 22 seconds to get, but over the course of the run, you can make up pretty much all of that time save. It is quite the route. It's not too much faster, so I haven't actually learned it. Made a little mistake there. Actually, this stage was going pretty well until then, but I still made the fastest cycle, so that's still nice. I'm not going to complain about that. Up next is... so this is the wind tunnel room. Basically, you want to time your burst just right so you don't hit these spikes, but you can get over this block in order to make the one wind cycle where the leaves you can see are being blown up and down by the wind. So it goes up and down, one slung thing. This room isn't too bad. Don't die there often. But coming up next is the Propeller fight. So Propeller is kind of an interesting fight. Basically, the setup I have is similar to the one you do in Boss Rush, where you hit him sometimes, then you slap him. That's the Staff of Striking in action. Then he flies away, and you want to go up to him, hit him a bunch, and then slap him once more. I almost missed it on the last slash. That was kind of close. So that stage was very good, fortunately. That stage can be a pain. A real pain. So what time did I get? 45 is pretty good. I remember the first, maybe a month ago, I got a run that was 1945. It was like the God run. But now that's just pretty good. Pretty good. Hey, Cartucha. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I did it. I did, dude. So coming up here is Black Knight 2. So, Black Knight being probably one of the most annoying bosses in the game. Of course, they bring him back 3 times, as you'll soon see. The second phase isn't as bad, I guess. Well, I mean, it's worse than the first, because now he has twice as much health. But you want to hit him in the surprise way. And he has, like, a super big chance of jumping out. But actually, I started mashing during this fight, because the double hits actually make up for the time that it takes for him to get out. And also lowers the chances of moving.
I saved
so as long as you
every single frame.
You'll probably be good. Also, that was a gold, so that was pretty good. I actually saved a lot of time on the part where I lost time save to Flad in Propeller. So Flad's Propeller is insanely good. I think his gold is like the time he got in his run is half a second faster than my best segment. So it's pretty good. So here you'll be seeing we're buying magic upgrades, meaning we can we can use more of the staff. So you'll see that little green bar at the top. That's how much Staff of Striking power we can use. So this is Stranded Ship, and Stranded Ship doesn't actually have any RNG in it, which is super nice, but the stage is super tricky. There's a lot of places where you can just die. I messed up just a little bit there. Coming up is a room where... Oh, wow. So that was really close. I almost knocked the the snowflake out of the way, and I would have fallen and died. So that room was pretty successful, except for the last part. There's a lot of blocks there, and your bombs can easily hit whatever block, so, you know, very annoying. But the rest of the stage is pure movement. Basically just bursting through things. You take quite a bit of damage during the stage, so it's super important to be careful. Up next is a trick I found that makes this next Hammer Bro room a lot easier. So you damage boost off of that dragon thing, and it allows you to get just enough invincibility to be able to get through the first 2 guys, who normally I just hit against and then just go back, and it takes like maybe a second and a half extra. But that setup makes everything super nice. So that was a little janky there. I was being super careful there, not to hit. So that room is also super annoying. Normally I do a damage boost there, but I'd gone fast enough through the room for the first part that I didn't actually need to damage boost, but it ended up taking longer because I had to wait for the second hammer to get by me, so that was a little dumb. This last room is pretty tricky. You get super close to the spikes a lot. And take one last damage boost, and up next is Polar. So Polar should be a pretty easy fight. Like, I feel like, for some reason, I've just been struggling a lot with him, and you'll see that in this fight. So I start out fine, I get a bunch of hits on him, but that last snowball just barely blocked my bomb, meaning I had to get up and throw more bombs at him in order for to actually start moving again. But the rest of this, so you see all that slapping energy, really got him. So that stage actually was probably one of the worst of this run, and that was not that good. Like Treasure and this stage were probably some of the nastiest so far. But up next is Tinker. Tinker's kind of a relief stage. There are a couple pretty dicey parts, but for the most part, like, there's an auto-scroller, so, you know, you get some time to cool down. It's pretty nice. I accidentally threw a little bomb there, which was a little dumb. So for the first part, basically, for the first, like, half of the stage, there's just a lot of tiny time saves that I try to go for. Some of them work out, some of them don't. Obviously, it's better to get them, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. So this first one up here, I'm going to try to burst on the last frame that I have in this room, and I didn't get it. Basically, you can get a little bit of upward momentum, and it saves like maybe 0.8 on that screen, but it's pretty nice to get because it also makes the room easier. So the next part, we want to bypass this little cogs ladder guy, and we did it. Very nice. You got to get to the top of the ladder, but I'm also trying to burst as fast as possible because climbing is very slow. So those right there are sign daggers, and sign daggers are RNG, and they can be pretty annoying, dude. I've gotten killed by them more than once, for sure. Thankfully, those sign daggers weren't bad. So this is probably one of the most famous parts of the stage, the auto-scroller skip. Basically, for some reason, the burst physics allows you to get through those poles without having them actually slow you down, which is nice. Whoa, dude. So dicey. Basically, you skip that entire auto-scroller. And actually, these metal rats here, like that one, is on a global cycle. So depending on how fast you get through the stage, he'll do a different pattern. And, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. You can deal with him the same way. But that stage was pretty solid so far. Here's the auto-scroller. There's some sign daggers, but thankfully for Plague, it is a lot easier to kill them compared to Shovel. Shovel, you kind of just have to... You're slowly climbing up the ladder as the sign daggers are coming at you whatever direction. And they can be nasty, I can tell you. Especially since if you don't go out of the way for the checkpoint that's right before it, you lose a lot of time. You just gotta make sure you time your shovel hits so you can kill them without them knocking you off. Because once they knock you off the ladder, you're basically dead. So coming up, then this is the world record reveal. This is the run. This is a replay. So this is Tinker 1. Tinker 1 is the first phase of Tinker. Basically everything does double damage. And I got the fastest fight, the double hit. Barely got it. Basically you just want to slap him as much as possible. And here is the real fight, Tinker 2. It involves more slapping. So I start off with a lot of slaps. So see, he's already at half health. That's how powerful the staff is. So that was pretty good. Ben, if you've never been to my stream, this is like literally how it goes every time. My laptop is not exactly the beast over here. So cut me some slack, alright? It used to be a lot worse. It used to be a lot worse, and then when I ran on the 3DS, it was a lot worse. So this is 19... So this is like the future technology for me. I don't know why I mentioned the 1900s. Anyway, that is the last Order of No Quarter stage, which is all the main bosses. Coming up is the super beefy part, the tower stages. So right now, as you can see, I'm actually 19 seconds ahead of Flat, which is pretty good. 2640 is pretty good. That is definitely potential. I could still 37 here, but it would be pretty tricky. I think my best pace for this is 26:36. So, next up is Tower 1. Tower 1 is... Oh, there's a lot of things here. So, this first section is not too bad. There's just some stuff. You just burst around. This can be a little tricky. You just want to get up and over. But coming up real soon is the Crusher section, and the Crusher section can be pretty brutal. Thankfully, I kind of have the formula down for when to burst and when not to. One day I'm going to move fast enough to get crushed by that first cycle, dude, I swear. So basically, coming up here, you can't really do much. It's kind of an auto-scroller. Then you get to this section right here, where if you burst at just the right times and get in the gap as soon as possible, you can get past this without that crushing you. It's very tricky. So next up here, just some tricky movement. So with the chandelier cycle I'm on, I actually... Oh, wow. Okay, so actually that ended up giving me an easier chandelier cycle. So when you're on the fastest cycle, you have to actually go under the first chandelier. Okay, that's a bit of beef. That's not that bad, I guess, but when you're on the fastest cycle, you have to actually go under the chandelier and then burst on top of the second one, and that's pretty tight. It's still even faster than if you get the easier cycle. But whew, I've lost a good few runs there, unfortunately. This next room, these next few rooms are all moving, and then we get to the final Black Knight fight. Thank God, and it's in the worst form. I'll explain why as the fight's going on. So basically, he starts out, and one time during the fight, he can teleport away, and then if you don't get him immediately, like that's the teleport, but if you don't get him immediately, he'll fly away for like 5 seconds while invincible. So basically, I skipped that, and that's really good. So now he's in his flying phase, and I got a pretty solid kill on him. So that's super nice. The mistakes I made early in the stage made it, like, not that great, but it was good enough, and I didn't get teleported on. And that's pretty important. I don't know how much time. I think it's like 5 seconds. Tolu said it was like 7 or 8, which is just not true. But I saved like a little bit of time over these splits. Still not that great. Now we're in endgame, as they say. So this is Tower 2. Ascent. So I have two splits for this one stage because of how big it is. So the first part, we go down. This is the last underwater section we'll see. There's this one poor, like, extremely tight trick you can do, but I didn't do it because I didn't want to die from those spikes. Where you can just burst through the block without having to actually burst up and then throw a bomb in it. So actually that was pretty close. I'm kind of surprised I made that. I beefed up just a little. So this is the Mario Maker room. The Mario Maker room is called as such because it looks like a Mario Maker stage. Like, complete garbage, but there's a pretty nice setup for it, and I did it pretty smoothly. So these next second, got hit by Jawa just the last second, but he got his little fan on me just enough so I can make up a little bit of time for that. Here's the last auto-scroller in the game. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up my health again, so I go into boss rush with 5 health, so that I can set up for a particular fight. Because in boss rush, Shovel Knight shows up again. Woohoo! Thankfully, you don't have to. There's no way to skip the I-core, so there's no pressure on that. But basically, oh right, I forgot to explain this. The reason you want to be at low health when you're coming into the shovel fight is that for some reason, so normally in a normal fight when you have full health, like you're playing casually, once he gets past drinking the I-core, once he gets past that point, he can use what's called the phase locket, which turns him invincible for like 2 seconds, and he can use it whenever he wants. It's horrible. So basically what we want to do is for both fights, we want to be under 4 health when we start the fight. Basically that means I'm going to be starting with a damage boost for Polar. That's pretty helpful. Makes the fight a lot easier. So this ascent was alright. It was okay. Not perfect, but it was alright. Then by the end of the fight, I'm going to have 4 health, and then Shovel's going to pogo on me to set up the stun lock. And then I can start, and then I'm at 3 health, and I can start mashing. And then he won't use the face on me. So first up is King. King is a bit different. Still not much RNG, but you just want to get him with some bombs, slap him, throw him some more bombs at him, and slap him some more. So not a bad King fight. Ideally, you don't have to use the slapper at the very end. So here's Polar Fight. This is where I'm going to use the attack. So I do a pretty epic YOLO strat here. So I do it consistently, but it's still like, whew, dude, I swear my heart rate doubles when I get it. There we go. So when he lands, if you didn't notice, there's some spikes that he unveils. And if you don't kill him in time, you fall in the spikes and die. So that sucks. So here's Treasure. I remember doing this run, I actively said, thank you, dude. Thank you so much for that good treasure pattern. Because what he can do is he can not sit there. He can actually move out of the way, and you have to go and chase him. And sometimes he'll just go up in the air again for no reason, and that takes forever. So here's Mole. He's pretty simple. He's actually pretty similar to the non-staff fight. You just get some extra hits in with the staff. So that was pretty decent. Next up we have Specter. So Specter is kind of beefy. You want to use the staff to keep him in the corner like this, but I accidentally let him get away a little early, but it's fine. It can be made up. So I get some bombs thrown at him. Throw some bombs. I have enough staff hits to let him kill him there, but I did a really weird ending kill, but it still worked. Just lost a little bit of time. So up next is Propeller. And Propeller is similar to the one that I did with no magic upgrades. You just get a lot more opportunities with the staff. And this is the fight where it's like super easy to get the turkey and refill. And then you have full health during Shovel Knight, which is super bad. Unless you want to take the time and take a bunch of damage during the Tinker fight. By the way, the boss order is random, so that's not even determined. If you get the turkey at Propeller and he's the last boss, you're basically screwed. So you get through Tinker 1, it's about the same. Tinker 2 is also about the same. You just have a little bit more. You just have a little bit different setup because you don't get the little phase in that allows you to get some extra hits on this fight. So last but not least, or I take that back, last and certainly least, last and the worst ever is Shovel. Shovel and Boss Rush. Right now I have less health than normal. I have 2 health right now, so I have like just a little bit of leg room. And you want to just throw bombs at him. I do a setup where basically I just hit him the entire fight, just as fast as I can. Hopefully I can get a... So there I used a tonic. So I picked up 2 tonics over the course of the run, and that helped me heal just a little bit during the Shovel fight, which kind of helped me save it. So that was super nice. But I got a pretty decent kill on him. That boss rush overall actually lost like 9 seconds to gold, which is alright. It's not great. Specter probably lost a lot of time for that. And actually that might have been the main one, and Shovel too, because I had to heal. That tech skip can be pretty tricky, because the way it's timed is, you know, the screen pans up, and then once it stops panning, the text box comes up. So you kind of got to press the box as soon as possible. But I was super safe there, because if you press it too early, the game pauses, which is super epic. So here, this is kind of the most, cringe part for me, because there's this pretty neat setup you can get for this block room, but I completely, I just went brain dead. I just forgot what I was supposed to do. So here you can do what you can call this pulling up peanuts, which is where you die on the screen. It's pretty epic. Oh yeah, beefy's a nice word. But basically, I took damage too early. You're supposed to take it on that one. Hello? Hello? Okay, we're back. So, thankfully you also got to miss a little bit of time loss that I had on that last room where there's some invisible blocks. And I had a really slow invisible block room. Actually, see, the best possible time I could get at this point was 38:03, and after making those mistakes, I thought world record was dead. But, actually, dude, I didn't even get to explain Enchantress. So basically that fight is pretty brutal, because, you know, you got the setup, but then once she starts diving, she can dive wherever she wants, and you want to get her in her dives. There's a kill I have where you could kill her before her dives, but it's super tricky, and technically, it's RNG-less and fastest, but it's just so tricky. So here is Plague of Shadows, also known as Piece of Shit. Basically, this guy's pretty random, but I got a very good fight on him. Basically, the setup I have is I get enough hits on him so that when he ends up in the corner, I have enough staff hits that can just kill him while he's standing there. So I did get Enchantress in that, so that kind of saved it, and that fight also was super helpful. So this is Corrupted Essence. This is probably the meanest fight in the game. So you can get a 2-cycle here, where basically you have to hit this part for him to open himself up as vulnerable. You get about half his health in, and then you start again. And what I've done before is where I get it just too far to the right, and time.
Master, get fucked.
And that's 2-cycle.
I got it! Oh my god, it happened! Oh my god! Are you serious? That was 1.8 off gold? That's bullshit. I lost like... Oh my god, Dude, it happened! Dude, it happened! Dude, it happened! I've been dreaming of this day for years. Holy shit!
Turning on the mic.
I did it! World record is mine!
Turn the audio down a little bit so
I'm finally #1!
my screaming doesn't.
Holy shit! The recording looks good? Holy shit. Dude. Oh man, dude, every single day I've walked in middle school. Dude, I started this category before I grew my first pube. Holy shit. Dude, every single day I walked into middle school and high school, I had this big grand speech prepared. It was some shit about how, like, it doesn't matter if you know, the entire universe gets wiped out. This
Maybe,
will
dude.
always be here, and it will always
Since
be
I did
present.
commentary with this run, I
And
guess I
that's
could
correct,
technically
but
submit it
it's
to
super
GDQ
dumb,
when I
and
want.
I'm dumb, and I just
But
need a
I
video
have to
game.
bleep out
It wasn't
some
even
of that,
37. Dude,
'cause
fucking Treasure.
they're,
Okay,
family
Treasure was
friendly.
bad. Tower 3 was bad. Oh my god, I can't believe what I'm looking at. I can't believe what I'm looking at. I can't believe what I'm looking at, dude. Holy shit. Holy shit. Wait, was there... Hold on. I want to get an epic...
Oh no. Oh wait, it's still on scene 2. Okay. I thought I accidentally switched scenes, and when you switch scene in the setup I have, the video starts over. So thankfully that didn't happen. I'm just switching a bunch of scenes to see if I can get the webcam on. So you're about to see something super ugly.
Window capture... Where is... Video capture device?
Oh yeah, also,
webcam
the part about me starting this before I grew my first pube was false. I was off by about a year. So, sorry for that fake news.
Ah.
So there's me. I don't know why the filter is like this. It's absolutely horrifying. But,
alright.
I messed with some settings for like 3 seconds
really great.
to determine
Let's see if I can look like I didn't just fall into
like
the
this.
sewage.
As you can see, I'm in my garage.
Filters. Can I like... what the hell?
So quite the setup.
It really is just a...
Game or
It's a great representation of what this grind is. A complete fucking mess. Absolute mess, dude. Although, let's see if I can get this to not be fucking green.
Yeah.
Because it's not there.
I have I had another webcam
I got
set up
it.
where I used
Wow.
my phone, but I couldn't
Wow,
get it to work
dude.
recently, so I just tried this.
Wow. That's incredible. That run was
As of now, I'm
solid. It wasn't bad.
And confirmed.
I didn't feel
child.
ashamed to PB it. Also, I look like an actual goblin. That's a microphone. Can I... Come on.
I'm having trouble figuring out what I'm talking here to each other. This is my garage, Dan.
Now, let's see if I can just add a new one. I actually gotta head inside real quick because it's actually the last run I could have done.
In the run with the webcam.
Holy shit.
And then I'm talking
Alright,
over
well, I'll
with
pack
the
up now.
commentary. So
I'll probably get
I'll try to
I'll
shush
probably
while I'm
think of a
having my
better
victory
speech later. Adios.
Alright, so my victory speech ended pretty quickly, because I actually had to, this was right at 9:30, it was around the time where I had to go to bed so I could get up to school the right time. So I headed in right then, but I decided to, when I got inside, I just decided to let the credits play for an epic finale. So I'm just gonna let that do. I wonder if there's some final words I can let out. Obviously, I want to give a big thanks to the community. The Shovel Knight community is super great. Shoutouts to Tolu, Oddbod. They're 2 previous record holders. They're super nice people. Shoutouts for Flad. If it wasn't for his record, my time would not have gotten this low. I would probably still have record at like 38:47. But here in this part of the story, Plague Knight finds the love of his life, Mona, who is the item person, and they blow up the Tower of Fate. Sub 30 tomorrow? Probably not. Might not even do runs tomorrow. Shoutouts to Ben for threatening me. Also, this phone charger sucks. Complete ass. So here we get to see all the resolutions with each boss. Some are good, some are bad. That's the triple pawn. You don't actually see it in the run. You see it in 100%, but that's about it. Also, the runners of the other characters are also super great people. Super nice community in general. I might get sub 38 at some point, but even still, like, that is an endeavor still. My sub best has gotten pretty low, which has helped, but it's still going to be quite the task. The biggest time saves in this run would be probably Boss Rush, maybe Tower 3, Treasure, Polar, and Tower 1 would probably be the biggest ones. I'm sure David would like that pun. I was mentioning the pun Kartacha made right above you. This credits section is super nice. It's just a bit of unfortunate that I don't get the audio through OBS. So whatever. Overall, if you didn't hear, I mentioned it while I was using the Goblin Cam. Over time, I developed this speech that I was planning to give when I got this time. And now I've kind of forgotten it, but it was basically stuff about how this is so good. This is so great. Even if life is pointless, this is still pretty cool. And to also thank the community. And also, while I'm at it, I'll give a good shout out to Applesauce for going through the Big Boom time saves, figuring out exactly how much faster it was RTA. Overall, this category is super fun. In terms of video game like running this game was like there are a lot of spots in this run that are just bad, but the movement and the rest of it is just so much like, oh, it's so good. And this game is a pretty good speed game. You get to skip the cutscenes, short intro, easy reset, and you get a little shout out in the credits once Yacht Club Games updates their credits. Thanks for the 38 bits, Kartacha. So you can see Tolu's 3920 is still in that, despite the fact that it's been beaten by 4 different people now, countless times. Like, flat beat it lots of times when he first got it. I was planning on getting record for New Game Plus in this category, which is where you start with all the items. And it looks pretty fun as well. I'm not so sure about 100%. Probably not. I'm probably going to let Tolu keep his low percent record. You get this nice little dancing cutscene, which I could last forever, but it can't because I closed the game. Oh, thanks, Kartacha. Yeah, it's pretty flattering. But that is Shovel Knight, Plague of Shadows, 3804. I'm eating dinner right now, so my posture's very cold right now. Yeah, Speedfrog knows what's up. Anyway, I'm gonna cut that stream there. Or I might just start the VOD over and not do commentary, so I can have 2 things to upload to YouTube. So commentary and no commentary. So actually I'm going to do that now. I'll be active in the chat though, if anybody wants to watch the run again for some reason. So actually right now I'll actually finalize these splits. Oh wait, I already did. Whoopsies. Let's see here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Oh yeah, give me money. I'm affiliated now. Oh god. Puberty's leaking through. And there's... Oh, actually, while I'm at it, hold on. Edit layout. World record is 3804.